Welcome in, friends, to Rates and Barrels right here on The Athletic. I am Chris Welsh. That is Eno Saris. It's Saris. Called out on the internet. You have to correct me on things. I was putting some English on your last name.
I do too many radio spots. It's fine.
I know how it is. It's Eno
Plus,
and Welsh.
I'm not the paragon of pronunciation. So
yeah, I don't necessarily try to be unless I like.
Right.
If I
That's
can
true.
get it,
I also do. I'm not doing this as a bit. I do not think it's funny to mispronounce people's names. I speak German and French, and yeah. That's my excuse.
It's just I don't really have an excuse. Like I try, but I do get super excited when I have someone's name that everybody else says wrong, and I know I can do it right. Like it is a very exciting moment, and that actually was like Jared Kelnick. Jared Kelnick was like that for many years because shout out Welsh. I talked to him like 2019. I'm doing my thing, my callbacks. And I asked him this exact question. I was like, it's Kelnick, right? Name? And he was like, yeah, it's Kelnick. But everyone would go, Kalinick was a very popular one. Kellenick was one. So it's a very exciting moment.
I screwed it up many times.
Yeah, everybody on the planet. It's like super exciting when you have that. And but it's also probably very exciting for listeners when we do something wrong that they get to tell us. It's like the most exciting thing of their day to call us out on it. So it's Eno Saris and Chris Welsh today on the episode, talking about a lot of the latest news. Of course, what happened over the weekend. Ironically, way more stuff than we probably expected just over a couple days of being off. And Eno has got some WBC Stuff Plus numbers, which should be very interesting to talk about. We're going to do. But I do want to remind you guys to come and check us out over at The Athletic, theathletic.com/rates and barrels. $2 a month is going to get your subscription set, and you get access to all of the things like the draft kit. This is the last opportunity for you to take advantage of the draft kit. I don't know, unless you're crazy and you do like one that's 2 weeks into the season, which is still great. It's still great. You're going to have access to it, but sign up now, get access to that. You get all of Eno's work. My dynasty ranks are up there and a gajillion other awesome things. So go to theathletic.com/rates and barrels, and we would very much appreciate it. And for everybody wondering, I do believe we are in a week and a half countdown to the great Derek Van Riper returning. I know people are probably patiently waiting. Derek has been spending time with his wife and his child, as he should.
Host, I wish for him back.
What's that?
Every show I have to host, I wish for him back.
I heard that wrong. I thought it was like every show I do, I wish for him back. I'm like, dang, me and Al are
No. Every time I have to host, I'm such a terrible host. I thank very much for your hosting abilities.
I appreciate it. Well, I think you undercut yourself. You do a really great job. But I've enjoyed doing the shows with you very much, and I appreciate all the people that have said very, very nice things about you and I doing the shows together. I've seen a lot of nice compliments, so thank you. And I luckily have had a nice rapport over the years and a good relationship. So I think that makes it a little bit easier. And let's get into the stuff. Let's get into the stuff and things here, my friends, where the WBC, I don't need to do this a whole bunch, but the WBC is like full front attack for everybody right now on the internet because of the injuries that are coming out of it, which, it's kind of hilarious, because it's like spring training does the same thing. And if it wasn't the WBC,
we're having simultaneous spring training news updates at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
we're going to intertwine.
Nimmo hurt the same day as Edwin Diaz, it's like,
well, it's like, if it wasn't the WBC, the complaint we would be hearing right now is spring training is too long. Like that's what everyone would do. Spring training is too long.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It's probably true. It might be. I mean, for me personally out here, it's too short because I've only got a week left to be able to go. And
everyone's in town.
Yeah, exactly. But the WBC has been under attack a whole bunch, and there have been plenty of injuries. Edwin Diaz obviously was the biggest of all of them. The newest one, though, came this weekend. I was watching, as many people were watching this live. Jose Altuve was hit on the hand and has a fractured right thumb. It is going to require surgery, apparently, we found out, in the coming days. And he's going to miss 8 to 10 weeks, which is going to be about, it's going to be about 6 to 8 in season. So,
yeah, was pretty, as soon as it happened, I was like, he's broken. That's broken. He like the way he was holding it. It was broken.
Well, we also had a fear not to like jump the next conversation or anything like that, or one to have in here, but Nolan Arenado had a very similar situation happen where he was hit and it was a little bit more in the wrist. And luckily it looks like it's going to be
he
nothing.
Passed the x-ray test, right?
Yeah. He didn't have anything broken or anything like that, but like these injuries mounting up, but the Jose Altuve one is huge because the position for fantasy baseball, that second base, already kind of stunk. It already was a problem overall. And you're going to take him off the table for what looks like 2 months of the regular season. And that is a absolutely brutal blow. So I'm curious.
It almost relegates him. I mean, I guess Trevor Story is out a little bit longer, but
Maybe the whole season.
Yeah, kind of wherever you had Trevor Story, you're not going to have Altuve much higher than that. So,
but what do you think? What is that? Well,
taking the best projected second baseman basically, and you're replacing him with David Helsley.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Helsley in a second here because he's super interesting. But on the Altuve front, what do you think the range is? Because my initial reaction to this was like, if you wanted to do this, you could snag him between like 90 and 110, somewhere in there. And then what you do is you have to back him up later. A personal one I really like is I like getting like Ketel Marte later because Ketel Marte has like a super low ADP. And if you're able to take Altuve and you have some form, obviously not an NFBC where you don't have an IL spot, but you have an IL spot, you draft him, and then you take like a complimentary second baseman, which in my mind, I think Ketel Marte is like the perfect person. But what do you think the actual ADP spot is? Like, let me ask you right here. Would you rather have Altuve with drafting a replacement or Gleyber Torres, who has like around a 105 to 110 ADP on NFBC?
I have a very sort of a strong NFBC bias during these time of the year because like I'm preparing for my main event and I'm thinking about that. So in that case, it would be Gleyber Torres. But if I had an IL slot, I could see it because Torres doesn't really steal bases. I don't know how many he'll steal this year. He's he's right in that place where he could steal a lot more or not many more, and everybody else could steal more. So I think I would lean Torres. I don't like to have to think that I have to have 2 roster spots to figure out one position.
Okay, so it sounds like he's going to go further down here.
Max Muncy is like a 130.
I just found him. Yeah, 132 since March 1st on Draft Champions.
The projections love him and say that he's a value
on the bounce back.
So maybe Jorge Polanco at 150.
But see, Jorge Polanco is also dealing with an injury. It's funny enough that you mentioned that because we also have, I don't know if I put it on here, but it looks like he's going to miss the beginning of the year and might hit an IL stint. It might be minimal. It might be like 2 weeks or something like that, but he's already kind of banged up.
What's wrong with him?
Let me pull it up here because it was, yeah. Well, they said he's not going to be ready for the start of the season.
Normal soreness. No setback. We're running out of days.
Yeah, might not be ready for the season. Also, actually talking about Kirilloff and Buxton, no shocker, being set up. Yeah, he suffered a bone bruise last season, and I guess it's still lingering.
Oh, that is not good.
That doesn't seem like something.
Are the weirdest things, man. Sometimes they were a big deal.
And that seems like something I wouldn't want to do. So like in that case, in that specific case of Polanco, I actually would go with the upside of Altuve because you're missing, I guess, a third of the season.
In both cases, 100%. I guess then how about where's Jonathan India these days?
Okay, India. Actually, I'm very curious at what you're going to say with that then, because I'm not a big Jonathan India guy. Jonathan India has a 177 ADP since March 1st on Draft Champions.
That's where. I mean, I would jump on it. I would do Altuve over Polanco, and I think I would do Altuve over India, especially if I could pair it with Marte, who goes another 20 picks later. So maybe
how about
Altuve, Marte, like back to back almost. Like
how about Brandon Lau, who has a 170? Is that the same kind of? He's really close to India. Is that the same thing, or does he get like an extra?
The thing that's hard about projecting Brandon Lau is that he's a pull lefty, and if he does get some love from the shift rules, then that changes his projections pretty hardcore in terms of his value because he strikes out a lot. 249 career average, projected for 245 by most of the systems. But what if he, as a pull lefty, gets a little lucky and hits 260? Now you're talking about 260, a guy who could hit, he could hit 30 homers again. And 260 and 30 homers with a handful of stolen bases, it's hard to look past that. But maybe you could pair him with Altuve.
This is just about to say. I was say, would you be willing to
Lau
pair
and
like
Lau and that does mean you're pushing, like, your util now has to be an MI, right? You're pushing all this down. So now, because your util has to be an MI, because basically you're saying, okay, for MI, I'm going to take Altuve, but I have to take another one. So you have to take 3 MIs.
Yeah, okay.
No, you have to take 4 MIs. So basically, I'm just saying you have to use an extra roster spot, so that there is some cost to that. But if I'm saying, like, I can pair Lau and or Marte with Altuve, then I would do it. So yeah, I think around 170 becomes palatable to me.
Yeah, I mean that's where I think it's going to be really interesting, because I just have a feeling drafts, when they start to push this coming weekend, not saying NFBC, because NFBC is a different beast. We all have to understand that. If there's like no IL spots, I think that is going to kind of change everything. And obviously big dollar, you just want your production now. But in a lot of just like home leagues and stuff like that, I just don't know if Altuve is really going to dip and drop outside like the 125s, because that the ability to stash, like we can't dismiss the idea that being able to stash a player and find replacement value in a 10-team league. I think this is way more palatable as well, because the player pool is just bigger. So you can get easily, you could easily get one of these guys.
You could almost just draft Altuve and then just see what you can get off the wire. I mean, what about David Hensley? Yeah, like, it'd be an interesting idea. The guy had a really nice debut in terms of making contact, and in fact had a better strikeout rate in his first attempt at the big leagues than he did in any stop in the minor leagues. So all the projections are saying he's going to strike out more, but with an 8.5% swinging strike rate and a good eye at the plate, are we sure he's going to strike out a lot more? If he strikes out 20% of the time, he could hit 260 and give you, 5 homers and 5 stolen bases while you're waiting for Altuve.
Well, there's so much that's fascinating about him too. If you want to talk about polar opposites, he's also 6'6". He's going to be like the tallest second baseman in baseball to the shortest second baseman in baseball, which is crazy. He had 10 homers.
Why does he not have more power? That's kind of crazy. He's a 6'6" like contact guy.
Skinnier. If it's like a skinnier guy, he looks like he's got that like Jeff McNeil frame, but just like a taller guy with the Jeff McNeil frame. 10 homers, 20 stolen bases in the minors last year. 80 walks though, supporting a 420 OBP. This spring, which might be a little bit more relevant to people, it's been a pretty good spring. 2 homers, 2 stolen bases, 286. That OBP is still up, 400 plus OBP. So if you play in an OBP format, he might even be a little bit more worthwhile than just like, oh, he's just a replacement to Altuve for now. Hensley might really have some run here, but this is a huge second baseman that's going to be in play. Let's say in the 10 and 12 team formats for just 1 second. Do you think you would push Altuve up, whether it is focusing on Hensley or Marte or whatever is in a 10 and 12 team? Do you think Altuve's ADP sits more in the 100s? Because like you were saying, maybe you just take him, you IL him, and you have way more replacements. Or do you still think it should be lower?
Yeah, I think the shallower the league, the more likely I take the shot.
So then we get into 15, and now you 15 team roto.
Now you're pushing. He's 150 plus. He's 160, 170, somewhere in there. In a 10 team, yeah, I could see him being like 100 to 120, because you're going to finish a 10 team draft, and there's on the waiver wire is going to be Chris Taylor.
That's a good point. I mean, there might be some scenarios where Ketel Marte might still be. I mean, weird things happen in league. Also, if you play in like an ESPN or a Yahoo based league and you use their standard roster construction, they don't use ESPN doesn't use middle and corner anymore. They have less roster spots. So that's another thing that kind of alters it. So at the end of the day, you can manipulate this stuff. I think what you could do, and if you want to be in the Altuve game this year, is let's say 150 is the range. Let's say, kind of set the table. 150 is the range. Maybe you jump a tiny bit ahead, and then you also reach ahead on Lau, and you just snag both of those guys back to back, or whatever that grouping you really like is. I like the Ketel Marte. I can pay a little bit cheaper, but if you like Lau and Altuve,
that 3 is interesting to me. Those 3 as a plan, even if you get screwed out of it, Chris Taylor has a really high ADP and a decent projection.
So in the main
Chris Taylor could be a
event,
backup plan even in deeper leagues.
not to unveil any main event plans, but will David Hensley be on your watch list for the main event?
I've got a co-manager this year, and and we've been mostly focusing on the top of the draft right now to get our KDS strong. So I think there's so much that happens after your first few picks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, then anything can happen.
What if we end up with Albies? Then Hensley might be on our waiver on our minds, but not necessarily a top target. We might have a weaker position somewhere where we need somebody.
Well, the really interesting thing will actually be for your main event is going to be how are everybody, because what is it? Is it 15 teams?
Yeah, 15 teams. Yeah.
So how is everybody going to approach second base now? Because you guys are all going to be in an arms race for second base guys. It's going to be Jazz, Marcus Semien, Altuve. Everyone's going to be fighting for. And then what? You're going to try to hopefully get maybe a better deal on a Max Muncy. I mean, there's only so many names to go. I'm actually more curious not where a guy like Hensley goes, how those top second basemen are going to be treated. Like, is Semien going to go? He should probably be the number one. I consider Jazz the best play at second base, but Semien is probably the safest. I wouldn't be shocked if Semien went a full round higher than he was going. What if he went into the mid-20s? I mean, do you think that's possible with the position?
It is, but I'm hoping not to panic myself. Second base is an interesting position for me. So third base, everyone talks about the shelf and the quality of the top, and that's true. There are five third basemen, if you count Witt, projected by the Bat X in a 15-teamer to be worth more than $40. I mean $30. And so this doesn't have MIRCI. Good job. Let me just do that. Yeah. So there's five including Bregman over 20, right? And so that's good. That's six including Witt and Bregman. So that's six. That's a big shelf, right? And then you've got 15 that are over $10 by the Bat X. It's a good position, and I can see people wanting to maybe dip into it twice and get something off that top of that shelf. Second base, with Altuve out, now has 4 guys above 20, right? So it just doesn't have the same quality, but it does have 17 guys above $10, right? So it in fact has some of the same similarities to third base in terms of depth. It just doesn't have the top end quality.
Yeah. So
I'm not trying to show my hand or anything. If any of these guys come to me at the right opportunity, I'll take it. But my instinct with second base, especially with Altuve out, is to wait.
Yeah. Interesting. Because if you're not going to lock yourself into that top end tier, there might not really be a big difference or any type of fear of getting anybody else. If there's whatever, would you say, like 12 guys with $10 plus, like it's kind of all in the same general range.
Well, you've got Glaber projected for 17 at a one. This is Fangraph showing the ADP. So at a 100 ADP, you were saying, but you also have Luis Arraez with a $14 projection. That's $3 less, and his ADP is like 75 points higher. So I'm not saying I'm going to get Luis Arraez. I'm just saying that it's uneven. Second base is uneven by ADP. Whereas there are still a $17, $10, well, 16 now with Altuve out, 16, $10 second baseman. So if there's $16, $10 second baseman, why panic?
I don't know if there's a player I struggle with more than Luis Arraez. I just don't get him because the contact skills are so crazy, but he is a
little bit of one of those like one category players.
That's it. But he is. I mean, but he's so elite as far as the hitter goes. In points leagues, he's great, but he just doesn't hit homers. He doesn't steal. I just don't know what to ever do with him. I don't know how to value him. I mean, him hitting in prominent spots of the lineup are great, but he goes over to a team
that's 2 homers in the WBC in one game.
Well, it's half of his season total.
No, dude. I was like, well, save him, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the BP. I just don't I struggle with him, but okay. It's an interesting thing. Last thing on this, just any last takes on Hensley? I mean, you've kind of danced around it, not even main event stuff.
I think
but
he's
like,
fun for short term, but I just the OVP thing is fun. I struggle to see where he like swim moves past somebody. You know what I mean? Like there's no real opportunity. Like even like would he take over for Michael Brantley at DH? I can't imagine. I don't think he's a 6'6" second baseman is going to end up in center. Is he that athletic? He's not, right?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm not familiar with him being crazy athletic. I mean, he seems like he'd be a corner outfield type of guy, 6'6",
Which
they
they
sub
don't
200
really
pounds.
have a need for.
But they weren't looking at it beforehand. Also, what I think is really hard about this,
He has played 7 games in the outfield at every level since 2019, and it was all at left field.
they also have this prospect who was in AAA, Justin Durden, who might be a monster, like just a big power guy, and some
They got
speed in
Corey
there as well.
Jokes too, right? Like,
Yeah,
he's
so
not terrible.
I think this is just like replacement. Here's the other thing with fantasy, because I think a lot of people are looking, they're like, oh, this guy's really interesting and da-da-da. But it's like the 26th qualified second baseman on NFBC is Brendan Donovan. And Brendan Donovan has made some swing changes to try to tap into more power, winning a Gold Glove. He's not coming off the field. And it's like, do you really want to wait and get David Hensley and pass up guys like Brendan Donovan, or you said
Right.
Like, it's not worth it. Like, so how
Hensley's
high
like
can he go?
Hensley to me is a bench pick. He's like somebody you think is gonna, is gonna play in the first couple of weeks, and maybe you like something about the schedule, or it's super cheap and super deep, and you just know he's gonna play. So Hensley's a good like AL only first week fab run pickup where you had a hole coming out of the draft, right?
Yeah.
Oh I hope that wasn't. Was labor FAB last night? I really hope not.
that was a live reaction of the, oh God, did this just happen? I would rather have Michael Massey. Michael Massey's 36.
There's a more opportunity there for him to become a second baseman all year.
Yeah. And well, I also think just categorically, he's just a better pick for speed combo with Michael Massey. So Hensley's fun. We'll watch it. If you're in a deep league and draft is over and none of these guys are options, I think we are looking at Hensley. When you're getting into drafts, I don't think it is, unless it's like a 24 team craziness or something like that. But the Altuve injury hurts. Luckily, Arenado's not bad. Another one we just got in here was the Juan Soto injury, and we'll have to see the severity. I'm curious at your take on this. Juan Soto is currently day-to-day after suffering a mild left oblique strain, and he did this in a B minor league game. When they say that, I'm not sure if they were running a side game, which they do, because this is what they do in spring. They've got spring games, they've got minor league spring games, and then sometimes they run these side session games. So it doesn't matter, but I just don't know if it was in the minor league game.
Scrimmage.
Yeah, it's a scrimmage-based game. Either way, he got hurt, and they're kind of poo-pooing a little bit. They took him immediately out, but the problem here is right here, left oblique strain, even if mild. How concerning is that to you for Juan Soto, especially if they don't give us any concrete information of like, the severity of and I know they're saying mild and stuff like that in day-to-day, but that day-to-day could easily turn into starting the season on the IL.
Yeah, and he'd been playing really well this spring, and I'd hope for a little bit of a power resurgence. I'm not that worried yet, although time is short. Opening day is 10 days away. So he could miss the beginning of the season, even with a mild one, because the whole problem with oblique strains is that you just have to wait till it doesn't hurt anymore. Like that's how it was explained to me by Zach Greinke. Is like and then I have to try, and if it hurts, then that's basically a setback, and I have to wait a longer. So it's like it's a real tricky injury, and it's also super important because baseball is a really rotational sport. That's why these obliques have been a big deal, is because people, hip shoulder separation is the source of trunk rotation, and trunk rotation is velo, whether it be batted ball speed, bat speed, or pitch speed. So if you want velo, you're going to rotate your trunk real fast. Well, how do you rotate your trunk real fast? How do you create hip shoulder separation? A lot of times you over rotate, where you over rotate your back shoulder to get more of that hip shoulder separation. When you over rotate, your obliques are pre-stretched before they need to fire. And so I think it can be sometimes bad mechanics, or it's just an oblique heavy sport. It's a sport that uses the obliques a lot. They're these little muscles that help you turn your body.
Also, if you want to talk about a player that is very movement oriented in their swing, look at Soto, who's very spread out, is very jumpy into pitches that are even balls. I mean, there is so much movement, not arm movement, physical body movement in his overall swing, that, like, not to make it a big deal, but I don't know if I were to pick a couple players that, like, this would be a worry from, he would be one of them, just because there's so much just body stretch movement. And you're talking about the rotation. Also, he had the thing pre WBC. I don't remember if that was an oblique, or I can't recall what that was, that held him not going into the WBC. So that's now 2 injuries in spring training he's suffered.
Yeah, and the other tough thing is, let's say I think I'm not that worried, right? Let's say I don't think it's a big deal, but it is something, right? It is not 0. Whatever I'm worried, it is not 0. It's not like 100, but it's not 0. When you are talking about a first round pick, like, having anything starts to nag at you, because you just, with your first round pick, you just want the stud that your whole team is built on. You don't want any questions. You know what I mean? And so, like, Soto right now is going sort of mid back of the first round. Do you have the ADPs in front of you?
Yeah, he's got as of March 1st, he's actually 9. This is looking at Draft Champions. He's got a high of, interesting, only 7 and a low of 14. So he has never fallen out of a 15-team first round. But is this the thing that does it, though?
And or does he start grouping closer to the 14? I mean, would you rather Mookie Betts or Juan
I have
Soto?
Mookie Betts above. I already have Mookie Betts.
Would you rather have Jordan Alvarez?
See, that is the best one, because remember a couple weeks ago, remember my risky team? I was all crazy taking Jordan Alvarez with the wrist, and everything is kind of worked out. But he's going to begin, like, I think, game action the last couple days leading into the season.
Yeah, his news arrow is up. I think Alvarez over Soto, maybe.
Are you okay? Because I'm really struggling with that. I think I might pick Alvarez over that, assuming we have no information. That's the thing that I'm concerned with. I need some info.
It's really interesting too, because the projection for Alvarez in Fangraphs and the auction calculator spits out 34 for him and 38 for Soto. But guess what? It gives Soto 665 plate appearances, and it gives Alvarez 586. What do you think? They have equal amounts of plate appearances this year? Then they probably have basically equal projections.
So you take the guy that's going in with
closer
the
to health.
Up. Yeah, exactly.
The one who's actually playing games, especially if he starts playing the games. If he gets into a game the next couple of days, that cements it. Alvarez.
And I'm looking too, and there's just no information currently on what's going on with it.
Oh, Houston is the worst, dude. Oh my god.
Well, I'm talking Soto. There's no information on the Soto, but yeah, Houston is the worst with the Alvarez stuff. But I don't see
that Alvarez is going to play in a game this week. Yeah, as soon as he does, he's over Soto for me.
So let's just, for 1 second, if Soto were to hit the IL and they say, hey, listen, it's not a big deal. We just want to give him the extra time. He's not going to be ready right at the start. So we're just going to throw him on, and he's going to miss the first 2 weeks. And they commit to that. Is Soto out of the first round? If you get all the information, even though they say, hey, listen, it's not a biggie, but he's going to be on the IL. Do you think he jumps out of the first round?
Yeah. There's some good options at the back end, but I think he's going to stay ahead of Paul Goldschmidt. He's going to stay ahead of Rafael Devers. He's going to stay ahead of Mike Trout. Devers has the team context around him. He'll start bumping up against Manny Machado.
Okay, because I was going to say, if you had the wheel pick, if you had a 15 pick and Soto was there, would you pair Soto with...
If you're going to miss the first 2 weeks, then I'll just take Manny. Yeah, I think he could fall out of the first. I think he could end up being like 15, 16 ADP. Might be a value at it,
But would you? Like, you have the 15th pick, and let's say it's like, Riley, let's say Machado is there. Let's say, and you have Soto, Machado, maybe one of the pitchers. I'll give you Corbin Burns is sitting out there, Garrett Cole, whichever one. Like,
yeah, I'm taking one of the pitchers. I'm taking one of the pitchers over him.
And then, so you're going to take one of the pitchers and Machado over Soto?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Okay. That's a big deal. That's a big deal to continue to watch. Another big deal. Jacob DeGrom made his Cactus League debut on Sunday. He went 3 innings, shut out baseball. 34 pitches in that. I'd actually noted, remember in the game I saw, he only needed 24 pitches to get through 2. And this time it was against big leaguers. He didn't walk anybody. He struck out 4. 28 of 34 pitches were thrown for strikes, and his fastball was sitting between 97, 99. I think even might have hit triple digits. So, we've talked a lot about Jacob DeGrom. We don't have to go nuts, but now you have in-game action. Thoughts on seeing him out there and the effectiveness up against the Mariners?
140 innings. He's the best pitcher in baseball.
Boom.
The race to 140 innings.
So nothing has really changed because it's all about like if he stays healthy. You continuously get to see his stuff and how amazing it is and how incredible it is. And he finally got out in game action, which makes everybody happy. But it didn't really change the narrative, though, right?
Yeah. So it's the same. It's the same. I struggle with that, man. There's just it's a YOLO pick for me where it's could go badly.
But you don't want a YOLO. You don't want a YOLO in a main event.
I don't know.
Okay, maybe YOLO. I mean, I'm kind of a YOLoer. I YOLO something.
Yeah.
I like to YOLO. I didn't get to YOLO with Jacob DeGrom, unfortunately, this offseason because in my positional drafting and stuff, like I don't get to do NFBC or NFBC like draft champions and stuff in Arizona for whatever reason. By the way, it's legal gambling. We have everything. We have all the casino. We have all the apps. We have DraftKings, all that. But NFBC didn't get their license set with Arizona, so I can't go and do all my draft champions. If I'm doing high dollar ones for people, so I don't think I'm a crazy person, I'm definitely a lot more safe and a little bit more risk averse. But when I do something like a TGFBI, I'm going to play more YOLO because that's an opportunity to play YOLO and it's a gajillion.
Because there's an overall prize.
Exactly. And I'm looking more YOLO in that respect. So that's why I would do I had Tatis and Jordan Alvarez and I took O'Neill Cruz and stuff like that. Jacob DeGrom kind of sits in that world. I just wonder how much, if we can have another acronym in here, FOMO is going to happen with Jacob DeGrom if he's healthy and what the narrative is going to look like. Because everyone universally says 140 innings, he's the best pitcher in baseball. That's so many less innings than any normal given pitcher. That I also
don't know. Everyone's going to be more like 180 this year. So,
but still, I mean, that's like that's a significant amount less. It's just like how big of an injury is everybody expecting from Jacob DeGrom? We know he's going to get hurt. He's going to have an IL stint and stuff like that. But I feel like the significant injury is being baked in so much. But I guess it doesn't make you feel good when he's been babied this entire spring. I mean, like, are you okay with the babying of him this entire spring, or is it more warning signs?
No, that's going to be part of the picture.
Okay. All right. No more Jacob DeGrom. We'll get out of that. I can talk about Jacob DeGrom the whole time.
It's no change, really.
Yeah, no change. All right. Real quick thoughts. You mentioned it before. Brandon Nimmo currently week to week with a low grade right knee and ankle sprain. What is that doing for draft status for you for this coming weekend with Nimmo?
He's interesting because he's been a value, I think, in drafts. Because he kind of provides value in terms of such a great OBP that, he adds those runs. And, I kind of believe in 15 to 16 home run power. And if he was healthy with the legs, 5 to 10 stolen bases, it's one of those things that it doesn't stand out in any one way, but he keeps you going. He is a one category stud in runs, but he's not zero categories otherwise. So he's been somebody that I've gotten in drafts because I feel like he's fallen a little bit lower than he should. People tend to be looking for stolen bases or for homers when he goes. And when you take Nimmo, you're not really solving either of those riddles. You know what I mean? You're just sort of kicking the can down the road a little bit. But with this, he's a little bit less likely to be on one of my teams, but he says he's going to be ready for opening day. Week to week is a really weird way to put it when there's 1 week to opening day.
Exactly. Just say
week to week, so he could be ready or couldn't. Oh, good.
I don't like that. A couple other, these are non-injury based notes, but they're important. I think this could be sneaky. I don't know about you. Jurickson Profar, coming off of his time in the WBC with Netherlands, signed a just under $8 million guaranteed deal with the Rockies, which also has some incentive-based stuff. But it's already been said that he's going to play left field and lead off for the team. And his ADP, because he hasn't been drafted anywhere, has been post 400 across the board. I looked at Fantasy Pros like ECR, their consensus ranks on all the sites, and it was 404. Jurickson Profar was. It's obviously going to come up, but you're talking about a leadoff hitter in Colorado, went 15-5 last year with the Padres. What say you about Profar? Is there anything in there that excites you, especially for the big discount you're going to get?
Yeah. There's a weird thing about him is that when he barrels the ball, he pulls it every single time. So I think he had like 15 barrels last year and he pulled every single one of them. So he's like one of those guys that just takes a shot every once in a while. And it works out for him. I think he's going to be more of a 260 hitter in Colorado. But 260 with 15 to 17 homers and 5+ steals, he's a top 50 outfielder now, and I'm taking him ahead of, people seem to like Seth Brown a lot, and I just see the poor batting average, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I think has playing time risk. That's a crowded Arizona outfield, and how that shakes out, we're not exactly sure. Lane Thomas is an old guy on a team that wants to get young. I mean, he's not super old. What is he, like 29? Shut up, he's not old.
I also don't know if they have any other,
but he's not. He's like kind of a low ceiling guy, right? If Garrett Stone or any of those other guys goes off, even Jake Alou, whatever, like,
good point.
Lane Thomas is not going to stop him. So I don't know. I take Profar over some of those guys, and Whit Merrifield. Espinal is there. Like, is Whit Merrifield a everyday starter? I don't know. So Profar doesn't. Again, he's a little bit like Nimmo, where he's not going to hit you a bunch of homers or steal you a bunch of bases, but he's really good oatmeal.
Yeah, and also like what his role is very different than what it was with the Padres. Padres, you had a lot of like team leaders, and he was trying to be a cog and trying to get playing time. And now he's going into a position where they're like, as there's Chris Bryant, but it's just like it's a bigger spot for him to kind of work and build for a contract. And he's going to get the lead off in Colorado. I think it's interesting to see where he's going to where it's going to finish out for these drafts this next 10 days. Like, what is this going to actually look like? Because it's 400 ADP out. Based on what you're saying, I think he's probably right around the 200s, right?
Yeah, he's gonna zoom up. It's also a little bit sad for some of the sleepers we had on the rest of this roster. I think it is an indication that the Rockies are going to pretend they're contenders again. And that means Mike Moustakas is going to be the third baseman. That's kind of interesting. But it also means that Nolan Jones and Michael Toglia. Jones is, I think, if he's not in the minors yet, he's got a ticket to ride. It says
he DH for the team though.
Yes, but Charlie Blackmon has to DH for the team now.
Good point. By the way, I get to have one of those moments real quick, by the way. It's actually Toglia. The G is silent with Michael Toglia. So I get to have
how I said it?
Minor league. I thought you said Toglia. I'm going to pretend you said Toglia, so I got to correct you, so I didn't have to pretend I said sorry.
No, I think Toglia is going to make it. He's just the in-house guy. He played last year. They like him. He's playing a lot in spring, and Nolan Jones has that option. So I think Toglia is going to make it as the backup first base DH corner outfield guy. And I don't know, but that's the only guy that's kind of interesting. It
hurt Altuve Montero. It hurt Altuve Montero, like you said. That was one of those kind of guys. He's kind of taken off there. And Nolan Jones really both of those guys got smacked by Profar and Moustakas. Montero was more affected by Moustakas, and now this really does affect Nolan Jones. It's a weird situation. They always do this. I don't understand it with the Rockies, but it creates really, I think Mike Moustakas is intriguing. Whatever anybody says, I saw his first at bats with the Rockies on the backfields. He was going up against Brad Hand. He looked stiff, but the bat speed was still there. His legs weren't caught up or anything like that, but he was so happy with his performance, and he hit up Brad Hand in that little outing.
I mean,
Him
he's
in
hitting
Colorado.
500 so far in spring. It can't be totally dead.
Yeah, him in Colorado, Jurickson, Profar in Colorado, both really interesting pieces. There's just really weird situation going on with the Braves. We'll kind of quickly get out of these, but the Braves, I don't know if you've seen this, but Vaughn Grissom, 5
He's
straight
not
games of
playing.
not starting, and the team has now openly said that Orlando Arcia is going to make the roster, and one of Shoemake or him will be the second shortstop. But they're making it seem like I don't think the shortstop thing. My take on this is I don't think they like the shortstop thing that's happening with him, and they don't know what to do with it because the bat's live. But seeing a guy at his level vying for this job to not play for 5 straight days, is super sketchy. It's sus, as people younger than me would say.
Yeah, I think Arcia is probably the starter. I think the team thinks we're such a good team, top to bottom. Why take a chance defensively? Why take a chance defensively at a time when the bases are bigger and there's going to be more bang bang plays at first place? We're a championship contender. Let's just have a championship defender, and then Vaughn Grissom can go quote unquote work on his defense in the minors. It's in this case probably the number one thing they'll want to see from him. But it is weird because spring training doesn't matter. Why don't they just continue to see his defense now? It really smacks like a decision has been made. And then I just don't know where Vaughn Grissom's future lies because Ozzie Albies is signed for a long time. And
they had worked him in the outfield a little bit last year. They were starting that process when Albies was coming back to get him.
He could be a corner outfielder, I guess, because Harris seems ensconced center too. I mean, these guys are all signed to like 10-year deals. So
yeah, I don't think they planned around it enough. I think it's super suspect, the whole thing, and unfortunately, I think it's making Vaughn Grissom someone I don't want to draft. I don't want to touch him right now because I don't know what it's going to look like. Also, they've got a rotation thing going on where Jared Schuster and Dylan Dodd are both competing for the final spot. Dodd was really good.
My numbers hate them.
Did they hate? I was going to say, which guy do you like out of this list?
I think Dodd is. I think Dodd has an 88 stuff plus, and Schuster. It's Schuster with an SH. Schuster has a 72 stuff plus. So,
okay,
that's not going to make anybody happy. These numbers are through the 15th, so there's at least one start on here that's not on there.
And Dodd had a really good one. He had like a 4-inning game where he pitched really well the other day.
I know the results are there. I tend not to look too much towards results, and I would like to remind people that there are Dylan Dodd was not ranked as a prospect by Fangraphs, and I don't think Schuster was either. So
Schuster, I think, is. I think Schuster should be one of the top.
Schuster was team rank 1. Was he the top prospect for them right now?
Yeah, he
because they've used up all their prospects. Because he's only a 45 future value.
Yeah, their system is pretty depleted right now. So Schuster's up there. So Schuster seems like the guy, and he was throwing some strikes and fastball was flying and stuff like that. But it definitely seems like a weird, odd combo between Dodd and
7K9 in AAA last year. So I neither one of these guys was supposed to be a top prospect, and the stuff numbers aren't positive. So I'm not jumping in. I mean, I generally don't like rookie starters.
Yeah. Well, also RIP to Brandon Pfaadt. Not any morbid thing,
not
but
actually. Come on.
To his rotation spot.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Brandon, to all of
Nelson has picked it up of late, and the results are starting to match his stuff numbers more. So
I talked to Pfaadt.
Become a Nelson Dre Jameson battle for now.
I had talked to Pfaadt before, right before he went on the bus to go and pitch behind Madison Bumgarner. He seemed like in such a good spot. Another really unique thing, and I really thought I was onto something with this. Dre Jameson was working solo in camp with the relievers. They had this side section where it was like all the reliever guys.
That's where he's headed myself.
And Dre was there, and I was like, boy, Pfaadt's good. Nelson's struggling. Dre is with the relievers. Pfaadt did everything he possibly could, and then I was at the camp a couple days ago, and Dre Jameson threw as a starter on the backfield. He was on the backfields, and he threw a full session, and Ryan Nelson got out there. So I still think Pfaadt, if you have NA spots, I think Pfaadt is up within the first month, and I think he's still someone you can get at the back end of your draft. Smaller leagues, no. Deeper leagues, yes. But it is really unfortunate. So to RIP to the excitement of Brandon Pfaadt breaking the rotation, because that did not happen. And I'm sad about that. I'm a sad panda. WBC. We got some WBC stuff plus numbers to end out the show. Some really interesting ones. You know, you gave me kind of a list of names, and the top two are definitely going to be familiar. There's some international names that are going to jump out, but
well, actually, the number one
okay.
was actually Shota Imanaga.
Oh, okay. Proceed.
Yeah, and it's only 58 pitches, but when you have like a 134 stuff plus 58 pitches in, yes, there could be regression or whatever, but you're likely to have an above average stuff plus. It's like, like how much is it going to regress from there? You don't usually have guys putting up 130s and then they end up at 95. You know what I mean? Like maybe he ends up at 120, like Julio Urias, just to give you a place to kind of, okay, context. This is context. Yeah. Julio Urias had a 124. So I'm thinking Shota Imanaga, who had a 134, might end up at a 124. Hey, that's Julio Urias territory. Sandy Alcantara had a 119. So, Jordan Hicks, 119. So good. This is really good stuff, even if it comes down from there. And Imanaga is really interesting because, he's actually, and we're going to talk about age a little bit more. He's 29 years old. So I don't know his exact contract status in Japan, but it's likely that he could come over. It's a lot easier for him to come over because he's not part of that rookie pool.
Yeah, you're post 25 in Japan or internationally. Once you're outside of 25, you're kind of open game. It's open season, especially in Japan if they want to, if there's like posting and whatnot. It's just about team posting a player if they're still locked into a contract. That's it.
Yeah, and he had a 2.04 ERA in 158 innings last year. And then in 2021, he had a 2.83 ERA in 149 innings. I don't see bulk here, so maybe there's some injury history. He's topped out at 170 innings, it looks like, in 2019. So maybe there's an injury history, but for his career, 9 strikeouts, 1 strikeout per inning, basically 9K9, 3.24 ERA. Really small walk rate. So this looks like a guy who could pitch in America. And so I don't know that I would zoom him to the top of your boards without more context about his contract and his injury history, but just looking at the stuff number and looking at his stats and looking at his age alone makes him somebody that I want to maybe draft in first year player drafts. And he's not going to be necessarily my first pick, but he is somebody that I have a first year player draft that's coming up, and he's definitely on my list for that. The next two are interesting names from America that you've heard before. Carlos Hernandez, small as a short appearance. I tried to limit it to 25 pitches per appearance and more to get starters. He's at 27, so he's right there in between reliever and starter. Jose De Leon is right behind him at 64 pitches in one appearance with these numbers. So both those guys showing improved stuff. Jose De Leon is in the Twins bullpen, most likely.
I was about to say, where is he? Is he still in base? I mean, because he was a heralded Rays prospect for many years and then was over with the Reds.
The fastball is back. And as a reliever, I think he's pretty interesting. I mean, you just have to look at the career of Jorge Lopez, who's in that bullpen, to see somebody who struggled along as a starter and immediately became an impact reliever. We might be seeing that with both these guys because Carlos Hernandez's best pitch is his four-seamer. If he was in the rotation, he would have the best fastball in the Royals rotation. That was his calling card. It's damning by faint praise given the rest of that Royals rotation, but his command has been bad. And that could be mitigated in short stints. If he's a reliever, then he can stop throwing whatever pitches he can't command. He can slim it down. He can get one target, and he can just blow people away. So, I think Carlos Hernandez is interesting. I think both these guys are interesting, but it's mostly like a stash for later. Like that, like things that have to change for them to. I don't think Carlos Hernandez is in that Royals rotation, and I don't think De Leon is one of the final 3 guys in the Twins bullpen. So I don't even think he's a holds guy. But Carlos Hernandez has the stuff to be the Royals closer. So if there's any injury to Scott Barlow and Hernandez is in that bullpen, he immediately, if there is holds, and this is a real limited use case, but it's super interesting sometimes for people. SPRP leagues, Carlos Hernandez. If you want to get a few extra holds out of a starting pitcher slot, that might be a place to look.
Oh, that's really sneaky because I like him more because I actually still think this team is going to go in on Chapman, and then they have Barlow. They also have Stalmont. That I think Hernandez could be really sneaky for holds-based leagues, and that is a really great strategy for dropping him in on SP spot. I like that a lot. Big fastball.
Tonight's starter, Roki Sasaki, is of course in the top 5. He like sits 99, so of course he's up here. We're sitting right between Julio Urias and Sandy Alcantara. So he has legitimate major league stuff, but we gave the context earlier. How old is Roki Sasaki?
21, I believe. So he is not eligible. So he could come over stateside. The problem is he would be stuck to the international signing pool situation, which is around a 5 point whatever. It's usually not over $6 million capped that teams have to sign, just like the Ethan Salas or the young international kids from like the Dominican Republic. He would be under those same guidelines and rules, which wouldn't be enticing for the team to post him. It wouldn't be enticing for him. So the only other way around it is wait until you're at least 25 years old. Then the team can go into full-on posting, and then you can get a full-on contract. So unfortunately, even though he might be the most fascinating and awesome international prospect, probably over the next 4 years, it's going to be for the next 4 years because he's not coming over until 2027.
There's just no incentive for his team to post him if they can make $1 million off it.
Yeah.
The posting system has now created a disincentive for Japanese teams to post their guys until they're 25.
Because what did you say too? It was 20% of whatever
it's
the
20% of the contract. So
if he signs for 5.5, that's like
million, which is the max
1.1 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not these big paydays that they used to get. And in the meantime, they are, as you said off air, selling jerseys, getting people into the stadium.
They can make that in half of a season easy.
They're winning games with him, like $1 million is not a reason to send him packing. It does get closer when like they're about to run out of team control. So it's a lot like in America where, this team, has a guy that's going to be a free agent next year or the year after. That's when you're going to start to hear Roki Sasaki's name a little bit more.
Yeah.
But just to give you some context of how long 4 years is in the life of a pitching prospect or somebody like this, we just had Shintaro Fujinami come over. And I was like so breathless excited about Shintaro Fujinami like 4 years ago. We were just getting, and I think it might have been WBC related or something, but there was just like, it was like, oh, here's this guy, he's sitting 99 and he's got this amazing forkball. And then I was like, oh, when could he come over? And it was like, oh, 2023, and in the meantime, he's been hurt a lot, been turned into a reliever. His command problems have been exposed, so like 4 years is a long time to wait for somebody. If you have a league that you think will be around in 4 years and you can just sit on him, take him. But I would consider him like a Salas.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what we were talking about off air too, is like what you could consider if you have an open format where you can draft just any, open world. You treat him like Ethan Salas because you're not getting 4 years of production, and Ethan Salas actually might break that. He might be like 3 years of production, but anytime you take any of these international guys or low A guys and you invest in them, you're 3 to 4 years away. So if you're out taking Yasser Mercedes with the Twins or Anthony Gutierrez or Josue De La Pala with the Dodgers, you're 3 to 4 years away from those guys. Roki, if you consider the same thing, you could take him now and just sit for the 4 years, but where would you take him? I would take him very high because I think he will be, whenever he's out, as long as nothing drastic happens, he'll be the number one first-year player without question. He will be the guy, and because he'll still be young enough and the stuff, as long as it doesn't digress. So did you give the actual number? Did I miss it? What was his Stuff Plus number?
It was right between Urias and Alcantara, so I think 125. Let me get it up.
Okay, that's a big number.
Yeah, it's a good number. It's for example, on my player ranks for more context, Corbin Burns has a 126. you know, these are smaller samples, you know,
Yeah.
but you know, this sort of stuff comes online really quickly, and that's why I'm reporting them. You know, we have more information now than we did before he pitched in front of the machines. So the last name before we get out of here is another Japanese guy, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He threw 60 pitches. That's enough to know about his fastball and his breaking ball, at least. You know, and he had a 118 stuff plus, basically in a tie with Christian Javier, a couple ticks above Sonny Gray and Yu Darvish. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto is a guy to remember. And what's cool about him is that I don't think he's going to be on as many radars. He's 24, and depending on what happens the next couple of days, if he goes out and shoves, you know, tonight, if he's pitching or if he pitches in the championship game for Japan, then everybody's going to remember. But people might forget because he might not pitch in the next couple of games, right? Like they have guys like Ohtani and Darvish, you know, like if Yoshinobu Yamamoto doesn't pitch, people are going to forget. But and also he's been a reliever for a big part of his time in Japan. But in the last couple of years, he's started 193 innings in both of them, with an ERA under 2. He had a 139 ERA in 193 innings in 2021 and a 196 in 2022. And now he's showing up on the Stuff Plus list as having similar-ish stuff to Christian Javier. And I'm sure he doesn't have the same command issues. I'm not going to report the command number because it's so full of noise in a small sample like this. But I would just, you know, I'm just guessing. I am looking at it, but I'm trying not to look at it. But just guessing also from these really low walk totals in Japan, you know, sometimes people have bad command and low walk totals, but he had a 1.9 BB9 in 2021 and a 2.0 last year. I'm guessing he has pretty good command. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto turning 25 next year. So he may get posted at the end of the season next year. And you don't have to wait 4 years like Roki Sasaki, and he seems like he's in his prime right now. So those are some names for you. Maybe they belong on Project Prospect, but they're coming out of the WBC atches. Also, Carlos Hernandez and Jose Leon, you know, resurfacing is something worth noting.
I love it. That's some good stuff. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast because that's going to do it for us. Go and check us out over at theathletic.com/rates and barrels. Speaking of Project Prospect, you and I will be doing that tomorrow.
And I think I forgot to mention this on the pod in case you don't follow on Twitter or missed the announcement on The Athletic. But if you're in New York City, I'm having an event at Other Half Brewing on March 30th, where I have a sandwich that I've made called the Knuckleball and a beer that we made together called Staring Into the Shift. There is a panel. The RSVP is closed for the panel, but there's a watch party that starts at 4 p.m. because there's games going on that day during the day. So there's a watch party at Other Half, starts at 4 p.m. March 30th, and you don't have to RSVP for that, and you can come by and get a sandwich and toast a beer with me. Although I have to be careful about how many beers I have because I am on the panel later.
Just a lot of beer. That'd be a problem. So, all right, so go and hit Eno up, Eno Saris on Twitter. That's the easy follow. Go and do that. That sounds like an awesome event. I wish I was in New York to do it. Theathletic.com/rates and barrels. Sign up today, friends. That is going to do it. Thank you for hanging out with us. It is Eno. It's Welsh. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.